This is the opportunity of a lifetime. When we are at our retirement homes telling the stories for the grandchildren, this is the story we're going to tell.
Imagine you're the CEO of Foodora, a cutting-edge delivery service that brings not just restaurant meals, but an ever-expanding variety of goods straight to your doorstep.
So take us back to 2019, late in the year.
Basically me, a late night, having trouble sleeping, picturing that we're moving from a pizza delivery company to a company that will deliver everything, everywhere, to everyone, 24/7 in 30 minutes.
You are piloting through a sky filled with unexpected turbulence.
If we couldn't get people to work together, it wouldn't work. These were enemies in a way. These were competitors. And suddenly you should cooperate under one roof, under one brand. I was almost surprised that someone was actually staying in the company.
Every decision you make feels like a high-stakes gamble, with the future of your company, your employees, and your partners hanging in the balance.
A lot of opportunities, but also a lot of risks, right? Merging all of the customers to a new tech platform, we would risk losing 60% of our customers. Like, this would be one of the worst mergers and acquisitions that have ever been made.
How did you bring people over and how many people came over?
We did a lot of...
Welcome to TOPCEO. I'm chatting with Foodora CEO, Hans Skruvfors. And Hans, take me back to 2019, a pivotal moment in the company. You're a food delivery originally. Now you do much more, but you're a food delivery startup owned by a bigger company, Delivery Hero. You're scaling in a lot of Nordic countries, and you've just made 2 acquisitions that are going to grow your business. So you're excited about that. That brings a certain amount of chaos with it, different companies, different systems. But this is even be more problematic because this is right before the COVID pandemic is going to hit, which in your line of work is going to skyrocket demand when not everything is quite set up yet. So take us back to 2019, late in the year.
Yeah, so I joined in 2019, and I joined into a couple of companies, right? It was Foodora, it was Online Pizza, and it was Hungry. All startups becoming scale-ups, but with offices in different places, different tech stacks, different systems, system apps, everything was different cultures. And so it's always nice when, the bankers and lawyers do their M&As. But then someone needs to put it together into one culture.
Okay, so like on paper, this sounds like, oh, great. You got these startups. We put them together. We're greater than the sum of our parts. We can scale and use our collective strength. But then that ignores all of the details, right? That just sounds good on paper. Then you actually have to go in, and as CEO, you're responsible for details that matter. And the problem is those details, it may seem like a little thing where these 2 systems don't quite talk to each other, but if they don't talk to each other, you have an irate customer that didn't get their delivery and is telling all their friends about how bad you are if those systems don't talk.
Exactly. So a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of risks, right? Suddenly we're actually going to dismantle 2 brands, 2 loved brands for the customers using them into one brand. Like, a lot of risk. We had to transfer people from, one app to another app. And to do that in where the culture was so strong, like the startup scale-up culture that can be super strong, but what's super strong in like all of these individual companies. So when you talk to people, it was, hi, I'm Ben from Online Pizza, or I'm Gabriella from Foodora. And it was a little bit of, different cultures, different business models, and basically a lot of work to make all of these synergies that Delivery Hero saw come together.
And did people want to come together? That's something sometimes that's overlooked sometimes, where it's like, top leaders, the founders want to come together. They have their own reasons, but like people who are, day-to-day frontline workers, was there excitement around it? Like, we're growing, or they're like, I just want to, I like our brand the way it is. We do things well, and I don't like how Foodora does it.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing, right? On paper, it looked excellent, but when you hit the ground, you realize that no one wanted this merger that was working in these companies. these were enemies in a way. These were competitors, and suddenly you should cooperate under one roof, under one brand. So this was not what the personnel was asking for. So in that sense, it was like a super tough start as well. And even if like there was this culture quadrant saying that roughly all of these companies have the same culture, but not really. Everyone feels like we're so different. We're so special. We're much better than the other ones. And all of that, and then closing down some offices to get someone to move to another offices, choosing one brand name, choosing one tech stack, choosing one legal entity. It was breaking the hearts of a lot of people, and at the same time envisioning like how fantastic this could be if we really work together.
So, and had you, in your personal background, had you dealt with anything like this or experience like this that you could draw upon? I mean, you had helped run and manage other companies. You'd been a board member of different companies. What experience did you look towards?
Yes, I've been part of one bigger merger and acquisition before that in my previous role as a CEO of a company called Nepa, where we acquired a company called Blue Carrot. But it was actually super, super different because Nepa was a big company, an established company by then, and Blue Carrot was a much smaller one.
Okay, so it wasn't so much a merger of like rough equals. It was more of like, oh, we're a big guy kind of gobbling up the small guy, in which the situation usually you'd expect is big guy culture wins, right? Like big guy is established, small person, you kind of fit our system. This was much more equals.
Exactly. So like in the Nepa case, for good and bad, like it was the big guy swallowing the small guy and trying to make it as nice as possible, right? In the transition. But still, there was a big guy and there was a small guy. But here it was equals that had, also been super competitive. And, at one of the offices, there was like this dartboard with like the like the brand names of the competitors.
All the other people, yes.
Yes.
Yes, and now we work with you. So how did you approach that? What was the first challenge? Was it more cultural and just sort of acceptance that we have a shared vision, or was it more technological? These are technology-based companies, you have apps, you have back order systems. Where was your focus when you started late 2019?
So we created like a big PMO structure because we had to solve everything. And we couldn't really choose. We had to get the tech right.
And sorry, so you said PMO?
Yes. So project management office.
Okay, but project management office, you're saying we're treating this like a big project where we have to like project manage the transition.
Yeah, and a lot of different work streams, right? So like we have the tech stack, we have the legal entity roadmap, we have but also like we really focused on the cultural roadmap because that was a huge thing. If we couldn't get people to work together under one roof, under one umbrella, it wouldn't work. So we spent a lot of time on that. And we got this, after a couple of months, we had this employee survey, like, how do you feel about this new workplace? And the results were like so bad. It's like, I was almost surprised that someone was actually staying in the company. And then, I sat down with my head of people and culture, like, where do we start with this? And one of the things in this survey that was super clear was that we don't have a shared vision, shared goal. Like, where are we going with all of this? We're sort of like just like, okay, let's get into one app. How can we merge this into one brand? But like, where are we going? Why have we done all of this? So, what's the purpose of all of this? And then I sat down, and it was actually, just after Christmas 2019. It's like, we need a mission statement. We need, where do we go with this?
Okay, so you're like, okay, so you're going back to basics, and it sounds like you're creating this from scratch because you're not like pulling the Foodora or the online pizza or the other missions, maybe they lack clarity too, and individually. And so, and at what point did that make a difference? Did you start seeing, I don't know, the survey results weren't so bad anymore?
And I think it started that big all hands where we presented the new mission statement. And there was no fancy consultants, having huge fees to make that up. It was basically me, a late night, having trouble sleeping, just picturing that we're moving from a pizza delivery company to a company that will deliver everything, everywhere, to everyone, 24/7 in 30 minutes. So we rallied behind that mission statement of, we're super good. We're a last mile delivery company. We just happen to deliver food, and we're really good at delivering something from point A to point B within 30 minutes in 5 kilometers ratio. And then, why can we not then deliver, flowers from the flower shop next to the restaurant? Why can we not deliver groceries from the grocery store? And what says it needs to be in the big cities? We should be able to reach everyone in 30 minutes, even if, Sweden or Nordic is scarcely populated, right? Maybe we can fly there with drones. But let's go from this pizza delivery company to become the Amazon of the Nordics.
And so culture was moving along. You did a lot, sounds like, personally, and had to project a vision. What was going along at the same time? I mean, you mentioned legal compliance and technology and your, operations, like you're closing down some offices and other things. What were other challenges or opportunities there as in this kind of early stage?
I think one of the biggest challenges we had was that, we need to choose one app, one tech platform to where we have all our customers. And that meant that we need to close down 2 tech platforms, right? So all of the customers of, online pizza and all of the customers of Hungry that were used to that brand, had a connection, an emotional connection and a relationship. Suddenly we had to say to them, sorry, no more. If you want to order, now it's via Foodora. And we also had to make it a hard change. So we had to say you actually now have to go to the App Store to download the Foodora app.
And you're worried you're going to lose all the customers. And probably people from those companies say, oh my God, if they believe like we do, and we thought Foodora was the enemy, now you're saying it's our best friend. Maybe people aren't going to go. And were you worried about that you just lose a ton of customers and value?
Yeah, obviously. Super worried, because that was actually 60% of our customers needed to get the message in their app saying that online pizza is no more. You need to go to your app store, download a completely new app that maybe you haven't even heard about before, or think that is, there's no use using that app. And suddenly you force a customer with a certain behavior to go in, download something new, put in their information, maybe their credit card numbers and so on, and start using a new service that is completely new to them.
Well, and describe the market at this point, because you're consolidating different players. Your 3 are becoming 1. But was there still other rival competitors who were not part of this merger out there who were we're going to try to, peel off all the online pizza customers because people don't know where to go, or what was the competitive landscape?
Yeah, so we had 2 competitors. It was Uber Eats, that you're probably quite familiar with in the US.
In the US, sure.
And another company called Volt, that is actually a Finnish company from the beginning, but as now is owned by DoorDash. And I think, when we did this merger, we became roughly the same size as them. But I guess what we were really afraid of is that, okay, now we're the same size. Now we can compete on the same level, because in our industry, order density is a little bit of everything. If you don't have enough orders and you have your logistic fleet being busy, then there's no profitability, very thin margins, right? So we had that opportunity now to reach profitability. However, merging all of the customers to a new tech platform, we would risk losing 60% of our customers.
And then you're not going to be the same size anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Losing everything like delivery here was, why they did a merger. But like if the 60% of customers just say like, okay, screw Foodora, sorry for my language, and go to our competitors like Uber Eats and Volt, like this would be one of the worst mergers and acquisitions that have ever been made.
So what happened? How did you bring people over, and how many people came over successfully?
We did a lot of things. So we first of all, we prepared them for a long while. We started to, even if we wanted them to change the apps, we slowly introduced a little bit of like the Foodora language, the Foodora way, selling in our app, having like a sort of a countdown actually. Like now it's just one more month on online pizza or one more month on Hungry, and then we will go over to Foodora. And here are all the benefits, and also here are a lot of incentives. It's easy to say all of the nice soft things, but it was also like, let's incentivize, these customers to really download the new Foodora app. And then while they're in, let's overinvest on CX. They need to their first order on their new platform needs to be flawless. Nothing can go wrong. And if for some reason something goes wrong, because that's life, right? Something always goes wrong. Then we need to be like extra nice to them. Voucher all of these customers and, personally almost say, sorry for the mistake. Here's like, please try us again. Here is, a lot of compensation actually to make it worthwhile to order again.
And when is this all taking place? Because, we're getting into 2020. Really, March 2020 is when I think back to is like, really, it's still early days, but we're starting to realize like, that's when lots of things are starting to be canceled, events and things are starting to be shut down a little more starting then. When is this happening, and when does COVID and the pandemic become a factor in this?
So we did the merger into one app was in December of 2019. And then we, as you say, we had 1 or 2 months of a little bit of peace and quiet, but still very, very intense. And then in March, all over the world, I guess, in COVID hit. And in Sweden and in Nordics, it was actually rather strange because the first weekend where it really hit, our orders went totally south, actually. The opposite of what you would think.
Okay, so you think like things are shut down, you're a delivery business, you need things delivered, but people did the opposite initially. Just suddenly they didn't order because what was your thinking on that of why? They were just like, they were going out and trying to do stuff in person, not get delivered, thinking that this might be their last chance.
Exactly. So the stores were not closed yet, right? So it's so people were going and buying, 20 kilos of rice or canned tomatoes or toilet paper or great magnitude, and no one actually orders from a restaurant. So I was that weekend when everyone was just buying rice in the grocery stores. I was sitting with my CFO on that weekend actually, like, okay, what costs are actually fixed? What kind of costs can we, cut or freeze immediately? Because this is not going well at all. And it's just a couple of days later, everything closed, and suddenly, instead of orders not coming in, we doubled in, over the day, more or less.
Okay, so suddenly, you had this, things drop off, you're like, what's going on? Now things double. And are people like, at this point, celebrating, like, woohoo? Or are people panicking, like, oh no?
It was a mix, I would say. Mostly panic in the beginning, but also some like, okay, this is going to work out for the best for us.
Okay. So you start to see the direction that, hey, pandemic for your type of business may be a business driver because you're a solution when things are closed down.
Yeah, it was sort of unleashing two mega trends, right? The digitalization and home delivery. So it was in the sweet spot for us.
Okay, so and that's good, but you were panicked at the beginning because you still have to finish orders, you have to deliver orders, and when they suddenly double, that's good in a long-term thing, in a long-term sense, but stressful in a short-term sense.
Very, very stressful. So I really want to be humble about all of this because I know a lot of other industries had a total opposite, right? So, but for us, doubling orders, you might feel that we're a tech company, but it still needs to be delivered by someone, right? So we had our riders, our rider fleet. It's hard to double, the rider fleet over a day to capture all of the new orders. And that meant that we couldn't deliver all of the orders. We had to decline orders. Or they were coming super, super late. And then customers were really angry at us and wondering, I need food. I cannot go out. Why is the food not coming? And then our customer support broke down because they were overwhelmed by all of the customers phoning in and saying, what's going on? And also back then, I think in the US, you had come much further, but in Sweden, there was still a lot of restaurants that was not online or part of a delivery platform.
So are they trying to madly get online because they're trying to stay in business? They see this totally shifting. They need delivery. But then I imagine, I don't know if that doubled overnight or not, but you're going to have difficulty onboarding that many restaurants to get online so quickly.
Yeah, so back then we were staffed to onboard roughly 40 restaurants a month. And suddenly, just for the first week, we had 800 new restaurants just wanting to come on board. And, restaurant owners calling, saying that okay, I need to be first in line. And, we cannot be in place 628. It takes too long. You're ruining our business. This is not fair. So it was really customer support, riders, restaurants, the entire ecosystem. Even if it was a super interesting and amazing opportunity, it felt in the beginning like everything is breaking down. We cannot handle
and how
this.
did you get through it? Were you just trying to hire people left and right to do this, new people just to have capacity? Were people being asked to work all hours of the day and you had to get them excited and say, hey, this is something this is a unique opportunity to do something with great purpose in a very difficult time in the world, in our country, in local communities? Did you rally people that way? How did you get through it? Did you just sort of say we can't make a certain percentage happy, and so we just can't take them, but we're going to make the people we have that we can take really happy? How did you get through it?
I think, again, right, it starts with the culture and getting everyone to work in the same direction. And I gathered the management team and we had this big all hands and saying that this is the opportunity of a lifetime. People in general are zombies in a way in their customer behavior. You rarely change behaviors. But this is one time where, suddenly people cannot go out. You need home delivery and you need them to adapt into the more digitalized world. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to go from a company that no one really knows about, that delivers pizzas to your home when you're hangover, to become this company that can be an institution in Sweden that can deliver everything everywhere to everyone. And this is the moment when we are at our retirement homes, drinking our tea, eating our cookies, and telling the stories for the grandchildren. This is the story we're going to tell.
This is the moment. This is the moment. We did something in a historic moment. We did something epic that mattered for ourselves, for our company, for our communities, all of that. And Hans, did people buy this? Did they get rallied up? Were they pumped up?
I really think so. I really believe so. And I still think that was the pivotal moment. Everyone felt like this is bigger than themselves. This is the moment to grasp an amazing opportunity and to be a part of something bigger. And that really helped. It really helped to rally everyone behind this, and like let's try to solve for this and grab this opportunity as much as possible and do as best as we can for as many customers, restaurant partners, riders as possible. And also we started with a mantra we called act and adapt. We don't have time. This is not the time to do fancy analysis, think about different scenarios. Should we go direction A? Should we go direction B? We need to take super, super fast decisions. We need to take bold decisions. And so we need to act. And then we fail. And then we learn, and then we try and fail again, and then we learn. We act and adapt. But there's no time for hierarchies. There's no time for big analysis. We just need to do what we feel is right in the moment as quick as possible.
Well, which is really interesting. And I think when we get a little more time away from this period in history and historians look back at what is the legacy of this period of time, that notion of whether it's the business sector. I mean, startups known for a little bit more fast reaction and doing that, but big companies were throwing away entire playbooks and rules. You had governments across the world coming together, and usually here are the 27 steps that we have to do to enact something, who were just like doing it, cutting through the red tape overnight and doing things. It's interesting to think about how much we were able to accomplish so quickly because it was seen out of necessity. And then it sort of begs the question, well, why do we have all those structures to begin with? Like, do we actually need all of those things that are built up over time? So did you had to react quickly? As you were doing that, you had amazing fuel at your background, which is just demand. At what point did you feel like, not only are we going to make it, but we're going to come out and this is going to be a growth driver? We're going to be stronger for all of this.
I think if COVID started in March, during the summer months, maybe June, July, we had sort of steadied the ship. We were able to deliver a service that was, good enough, I would say, to cater the demands. And we hadn't lost any customers. For actually the opposite. And then suddenly, we really felt like it's, even if everything is still chaotic, we felt that, okay, we can actually handle the order pressure. We have enough riders. We had, before we used to recruit maybe like 50 riders a month. Now in April, we recruited 1,200 riders in 1 month and onboarded them digitally. I held group interviews in customer service, customer support, like 50 people at the same time, group interviews. Obviously, we made some mistakes in the interview process, but okay, if you have a good heart and a voice and knows Swedish or English, you're ready to go. And we, in a way, we threw people at the demand, and in the beginning, it was really the solution.
So back to kind of looking back now with better vision on the whole thing, on that whole period, and then we'll project forward after that. But what did you really get right, and what would you change if you were going to do it all over again? That maybe would enable things to be solved faster, or might enable even more growth. What did you really get right that you couldn't afford to miss? And what would you go back and maybe do a little bit differently with hindsight?
I think what we really, really did right was to obviously to get everyone gathered around this mission. And then we have this amazing opportunity at this point in time. But also that we delegated responsibility, that we didn't have this big hierarchies, this bureaucracy that we maybe were talking about before. Why does it take, for a vaccine, why does it take 9 or 10 years to develop a new vaccine, and suddenly during COVID, companies could develop it in months or maybe a year?
Or put it in a practical way, like, Hans, you're CEO, but this other person who's a frontline worker is CEO of this decision right now, which needs to get made, and they are empowered to make that they don't have to go up through 5 levels to have you sign off in this case.
Exactly, and it was really to empower that person that, okay, if you're in customer support and you see that, okay, we have a new kind of problem, you have all the authority to solve that and to make a change, to make something for the better. And we also, like, every day we had a management team meeting in roughly 2 hours where the doors were open, so everyone would come in, also on a Saturday or Sunday, and virtually, I would say, to just, like, if they have something that this is blocking progress, this is blocking our customer experience or how we can recruit riders. Okay, you have 2 hours every day where you have the management team just waiting for you to come and say, like, okay, we need this and that, X and Y. And we try to say yes to as many things as possible. And I think that was the big thing that I would repeat over and over again.
Okay, so you got people aligned in a vision. You're empowering people because we've got to break down long approval structures. We want to prioritize action. And then you also really try to improve the communication channel by just being like, we're here, let's do things. Like, what do you need? We can do it. That sounds great. What would you do differently? Was there anything you could have done to speed things up?
I think on speeding things up, I actually think maybe someone smarter can tell me how we should have done that. But I think we were pretty excellent on that one. But I think what I would do differently would be the communication part, especially the communication to external partners. We were not brave enough in the beginning to say, our head is underwater. Like, I know you expect the delivery that, like, to your door in 30 minutes. It's going to take 1.5 hours now. We're sorry for the inconvenience, but that's the best we can do for the moment. Or for the restaurants, I know on our homepage it says that you can be onboarded onto Foodora in 2 days, and now it actually takes 2.5 weeks because we are overloaded with all of this demand. And I really think we failed in being honest to our customer because we really wanted to deliver in 30 minutes. That's very close to our heart, and we want to onboard all the restaurants as fast as possible. But we should have been more transparent and more honest, especially in the first couple of months, that this is just the current reality we're working under. And if we would have been more transparent there, it would have been easier towards our personnel as well. That was then under a huge pressure of, like, okay, we promised to onboard this restaurant in 2 days, and it's going to take 2.5 weeks. And then they, in their turn, got a lot of pressure on them. So I think that was one of the main things I would change.
And what do you look to from that experience? What do you look to projecting forward? I mean, now you're in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, the Czech Republic. What is next for Foodora? What is the next obstacle or mountain to climb to get to where you want to go in that vision of anyone, anywhere, 24/7 in 30 minutes?
Yes, so I think our development has been outstanding over the last couple of years, obviously fueled by COVID and the huge demand that was created. Still, the majority of our business is delivering restaurant food. And that's all good. And we should continue doing that with excellence. But for me, we are making inroads in delivering groceries. We're getting bigger and bigger in that. But for me, I don't see where we're not the new Amazon, to be honest. Like, why can we not deliver, like, and be the first choice to deliver? When your remote control is out of batteries, you should think Foodora. You should think that, okay, I can actually get batteries to my remote control for my PS5 in 30 minutes to my door. And I think we have a superior service there, but we haven't made the customers think that when those things happen, or when you forgot flowers to your wife on your anniversary or something, like, I can actually fix this. Foodora can send home like a big bouquet of roses in 30 minutes. So I think we have the capabilities, but now it's the journey of getting people to think, okay, flowers, batteries, PS5, what have you, I can get that home. Socks, I can get it home in 30 minutes, and think about like, okay, Foodora, because now you think Foodora, food.
Well, and how do you think you're a much, larger company now in terms of revenue, in terms of thousands of people who are workers, and there's also some challenges with that has been reported on a little bit in terms of some initiatives, like to kind of look at risks or gaps in work practices, and maybe some hires that people didn't like their background, or some other issues with different customers or restaurants abusing different staff members or things like that have been reported. How does that whole experience getting through the pandemic, how does it help you now? Are there any lessons for now of just being bigger company, more issues, bigger target on your back as CEO now?
For sure. I think the target is much, much bigger than it was in 2019. And I think media is having a field day with it. It's sometimes because it's something new, it's something exciting, and then you need to pick it apart. Especially the media wants to scrutinize everything, because I think for every successful company or startup and scale up in the beginning, media and external stakeholders, they love you. It's a love story.
Well, and there's a little bit of this like move fast and break things, and everyone's like, startup, that's great, but then you get a certain size, you're like, well, what did you break?
Exactly.
And can we look at that break? And then how did you break it? And what are you doing to put it back together? No one cares about that when you're a small startup, but suddenly people care about that later.
Yes, and it's fair, and obviously that has changed, and it's made us then, in one way, and it's a little bit saddening, but we need more processes, right? We need more governance structures and all of that to really make sure that we are compliant and in everything we do, and that we keep to our customer promises and basically all the processes and promises we have. And at the same time, we need to balance that. We need to always be professional. But that also sometimes means that you become bureaucratic, more hierarchical, more processes, and you could become slower. But it's my big goal now, and my big fear is that we cannot become too much of that. We need to be this big company that can still operate as an entrepreneurial scale-up company. Because if we lose that, this industry is so young still. If we lose that entrepreneurial mindset, that act and adapt, that pace, someone is going to beat us to the chase. So we need to balance this. Yes, we need more governance structure and professionalize some of the things we do, but at the same time, we need to keep that entrepreneurial spirit and heart. And that's my role as the CEO, to balance that.
Well, and of course, that's the trick. You need to grow, but not, lose what made you great in the beginning, even as you do. And certainly, what an interesting time and industry to be a CEO in, and to come through that. And certainly, I can see that giving you a lot of confidence that you might not know what's coming around the corner, but if you can get through the ups and downs of, COVID and in food delivery and digitization and changes in cultural norms and all of that, then maybe that gives you, confidence that you could get through anything.
I totally do. And I actually think even if we've grown like 10x on revenue, profit and, orders from like 2019, where I think we're just scraping the surface here. There's so much potential. And that keeps me going every day and keeps me going with a big smile.
Foodora faced the ultimate test. navigating a merger and a global pandemic that shook their very foundation. Orders plummeted, then doubled, pushing the team to their limits. Led by Hans, they adopted a mantra: act and adapt. Culture became their compass, uniting the team and empowering individuals to make swift decisions, cutting through bureaucracy and red tape. Challenges arose, communication missteps with external partners, overwhelming demand that outpaced their infrastructure, and the strain of rapid growth that tested their operational resilience. But they emerged stronger, learning the power of transparency, agility, and a company culture that values empowerment and open dialogue. As they look ahead, Foodora aims to be more than a food delivery service. They envision becoming a go-to solution for a myriad of needs, from groceries to batteries for your remote control. They're on a mission to deliver endless possibilities, proving that in times of crisis, the ability to adapt is the ultimate triumph. And with that, it's case closed. This amazing episode was brought to you by Top Thought Leader. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.